are focusing on strengthening our media-related members and the relationship we have to our journalists in terms of transitioning to media-related jobs, and also in terms of supporting NABJ as a whole organization and sticking to our strategic plan. We have one of the most, I think it's going to be the most engaging and exciting conference going on in Miami, and I hope that you guys are registering and room blocks are opening up, and you can always reach me. Let me get that housekeeping out the way. You can reach me at IamAChampionForNABJ@gmail.com. I get a lot of email there, and that's it. Reach me there. I ran on that campaign. I'm a champion for NABJ, and that's how I got here, thanks to Pam and all her good advice.
Thank you, Terry.
So what we're going to do today is that this particular broadcast today is still called "If It's Media, It's Related." That's our new slogan. Those are the buttons that we're going to have at convention and also at regional conferences. And we're going to do 3 parts. And the third and final part will be launching our mentor program. That's why we have all of these people on this recording so that you can see it. So here we go. I'm Terry Allen. I am the NABJ board representative. I co-chair the media related task force with Pam. I also co-chair the communications committee with Ron. And I also have a media company, and I'm a sales executive too with a corporate company, one of our partners, FedEx. And I also have 1016 Media, where I deal with cause-related marketing. We deal with nonprofit causes. My event's coming up. You can definitely plug whatever you guys are doing when you start talking, but I'm definitely going to plug that all of our gifts and talents here today. So let me open it with, while we start this one. With the closing of news organizations around the country, job loss is rising among journalists of color. Media-related jobs are very lucrative. If you are transitioning properly and have the right opportunities, you can get lucrative opportunities anywhere from crisis communications to public affairs, public relations, or to entrepreneurial launch of your own businesses for journalists. If you're seeking new avenues to employability and career progression, media-related positions are fast-tracked to maintaining the income that you had as a full-time journalist. And our panelists will share how media-related members can assist the NABJ family with career strategies and more. I've got a powerful team here. I'm going to do a brief introduction because we're going to have all that stuff and everybody knows who they are, but we have with us our media-related chair, Pamela Purefoy, is a media-related company, but one of the things that she can talk on more so is how she's coming from the field of radio and went to a PR company launch, and also has developed a complete communication strategy for a government agency. We have Ron Carter, and he's here by phone, but he's signing in. We may see his face pretty soon. Ron Carter is the managing director of the Carter Agency, and it's a media relations firm. He has gone from the financial field to the entertainment industry. As a matter of fact, Ron has handled some of the big Hollywood powerhouses and entertainment, including being senior director of media relations for Quincy Jones Quest Records. And now he has parlayed his media relations experience into working with government agencies and municipal agencies, and we'll talk about that. We have on here, of course, my mentor and the man who keeps me straight every other day, Neil Foote. Neil Foote is head of Foote Communications, has worked with Black America Web. I could spend 30 minutes talking about what Neil has done. He's also the national president of the National Black Public Relations Society, of which I am president of the Dallas chapter. So, and Neil has done a great thing there. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't have the person that I always call at 3 a.m. in the morning. I know she's gonna start smiling now, but that's my 3 a.m. call. And that's Mira Roberts, who's is it Real Rob Media?
Yes, it is.
CEO of Real Rob Media, and has parlayed our mentoring program into a very successful placement, including placing herself into a contractual success on her own by some of the contacts that are there. But our mentoring program is managed by Maria with all the rest of us on this call. And then I saved the best for last. You know I did. we have one of the journalists who's made one of the greatest imprints in my life and across the country, and I love what she does. And we have Nikki Mayo, which now is Nikki Mayo News.
Yeah.
And Nikki and I were working together on developing a panel for the Me Too movement for the Miami conference. But Nikki's a Baltimore native. She does more with Be More.
That's cute. I like it.
There you go. I'm going to charge you for that. You work for TV One, WAMU FM. I could go down the list, but that's who we have on this table. Let's get started. We want an opening statement. We're going to start our first opening statement about media-related opportunities and what you experience. And we start with Pam, and then we go to Ron, and then we go to Neil, and then Nikki, then Maria, then myself.
Okay.
So let's get that opening statement, Pamela Purefoy.
Yeah.
Pam Purefoy.
Oh, hey, I'm Pam Purefoy. I'm here in Durham, North Carolina, by way of Detroit, Michigan, and I cut my teeth in radio. I was Pam from Wham, my first job out of college, and my first true love, I thought, was, and it still is, I guess, it was advertising. And did the small radio station, went to a larger one, Kiss FM, also in Michigan. And when life moved on, I got married, had children, relocated here to Durham, North Carolina, and decided to put my name in the water and try to do different contracts and stuff, and did so successfully. Did a lot of things in healthcare and literary, even worked for J.L. King later down the road, launched his book On the Down Low. That was a very fascinating experience. And now I would say in everything that I've done, I had never done anything in the government realm, never did public affairs or anything of that nature. And I've recently had an opportunity within the past 2.5 years to launch a communications department in our largest government agency here in Durham. And at first I wasn't afraid of it, but I was not familiar with how government rolls, if you will. And the director who hired me told me, he said, just think of us as a client. And that's what I did. And we have really seen a great increase of favorable responses, if you will, because most times people look at government agencies, particularly one like ours, as maybe not so friendly of a place and very bureaucratic. And the wonders of social media, obtaining a voice for an agency and whatnot really can make a difference. And I'm proud to say I've had that great opportunity to do that. But in the process also, I've done a lot of training. There is a wonderful conference that I would recommend to anybody, whether they were in government or not. It's called the Government Social Media Conference. It just celebrated its 5th year. I've gone to the past 3. And this year was its most diverse, with a bunch of sisters giving presentations and talking about diversity and its importance, to Facebook bringing in 2 Black millennials to introduce and tell us formatting and strategic ways of using Instagram and whatnot for government agencies and other agencies as well. So, but I would say that if for anybody that wants to get into media-related positions, you already, as a journalist or a communicator, period, have a lot of the skills already. You know you got to be a good writer and a good communicator, and you have to be daring and bold and go for it. So I'll say that in a nutshell.
I have one question for you, Pam.
Yeah.
What are the income opportunities? What are the ranges that you see in working in communications for public agencies?
Well, excuse me. I know here in the state of North Carolina, it is not that good on the state side. On the state side, it's relatively low. In fact, it's relatively low on the state side. However, if you get a position with like Duke University, which of course is private here in Durham, North Carolina, or even with on the county side, it's not bad. You know, they have opening entry positions, at least starting mid-50s or above. And that's starting for people that may not, I don't know. I have to be honest with you. I don't know how much experience that is because my situation was a little different coming in. But it's not bad. It's definitely a livable and comfortable wage. And also, from the county side at least, the benefits are tremendous.
Wow.
Benefits add a lot.
Well, thank you for sharing. We'll come back to you on the second round of questions. Let's move over to Ron. Are you with us, Ron?
Mm-mm.
Okay, Ron, call back in. So from there, we're going to move over to my mentor and great friend, Neil Foote. He can tell us about the opportunities and the impact that can be made as journalists transition to media-related jobs. Your turn, Neil, you're on.
All right. Great to be on a conversation with you all this evening. I'm actually calling in from the Tom Joyner Foundation cruise. I'm helping coordinate all the communications here. So if the connection dies out, it's please understand. But I call myself an old school journalist and a new school storyteller because I've worked in almost every form of communications there is, from being a newspaper reporter at the Miami Herald and the Washington Post to helping the industry diversify at the association level and the industry level, to working with Tom Joyner on the interactive side, and even the Morning News, Dallas Morning News, and the Belo Corporation, and helping them to develop a digital strategy, helping Tom Joyner develop and launch blackamericaweb.com, and then coordinating a lot of his public relations. And then for the last 11 years, teaching journalism at the University of North Texas Mayborn School of Journalism, and running my own public relations firm, Foote Communications. So I think the cool part about all of that that I talk about is the interconnectivity of all of these skill sets, which I think now more than ever come into play. Solid writing skills, the knowledge of digital skills, and which I'm sure we'll address throughout this conversation, is that the term what media related means now compared to what it meant when I started in the business many years ago has evolved, and what we're all experiencing is this disruption in the way media is gathered, distributed, and shared. And I think that's where new opportunities have been created in all forms of corporations, of entrepreneurial opportunities, and within agencies that didn't exist before, that kind of tap into the written, the digital, the creative, and the analytical skills.
So just a quick same question. What are the lucrative, let's look at the pay ranges or the benefit ranges that come with what you're doing, because you have your own entrepreneurial brand, but you also have a role that you play in terms of contracting and being part of a larger firm. And I am so jealous that you were on the cruise. I'm just saying.
Me too. Me too.
Well, I'm working it, so there's not a lot of sleeping, a lot of running around trying to coordinate all this communications. But the question of what is the salary ranges? I mean, I think you've got to look at entry level jobs depending on where they are. Again, differing than when I entered the business, a long time ago, realizing that these entry level jobs, depending if they're a corporation or a nonprofit, could be in some cases in the 20 to mid 30s range, trying to get a launch in the career. I think the the more specialized skills and what I'm seeing even some of my students getting jobs doing, particularly when they've gone into the analytics side, the social media side, and doing analytics on the social side, are seeing a little bit more, higher range of salary, because that's an expertise that is greatly needed in the field, particularly as data analytics become an increasing part of all media, both print, broadcasts, public relations, advertising, and it's potentially that some of those jobs on the mid and senior career level can go from the mid 60s to well into the mid hundreds, depending on where you are working and what kind of firm and industry you're working in.
Right.
Well, thank you for sharing. Ron, are you back with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you well. So
okay, I'm sorry, I'm seeing you guys, but on my phone, but for some reason or another, you couldn't hear me.
Well, Ron, we're recording for replay, so you can go ahead and start your presentation, your first opening statement.
Yeah, I started my career back in New York as a banker at Chase Manhattan Bank on Wall Street, and moved out to California and started working for Bank of America in banking. And somewhere along that journey, I decided that I wanted to be a PR guy, and I was going to transfer to the bank's PR department, and they told me that I needed a 4-year degree from a university before I can work in the PR department. So I went back to school. I had a degree in accounting, but I decided, okay, I'm going to have to get a PR degree, a communications degree. I went to school, got a degree, and when I was finished, I thought about going back to the bank, but then I ran into someone who told me to come to a PR function that was happening in Hollywood, and I met Pat Tobin, and the rest is history. She introduced me to a friend of hers who at the time had a PR position, and they said, yeah, come on, you can come and help me. And I went to help this gentleman. His name is Gene Shelton at his PR agency, and he was working for Motown. I ended up being hired away from him to Motown. And while at Motown, Bob Jones, who was the guru of PR and entertainment business at the time, he took me. He was the head of Motown's PR department, and Michael hired him away from Motown, and I went with him. I went to work for Michael Jackson for 2 years and left there and went to work for Mercury Records and ended up at Warner Brothers thereafter, after about 2 years, and worked at Warner Brothers for quite a while, and then I was hired to go work for Quincy Jones. And I worked there for about 7 years, working directly with Mr. Jones and all the artists that was on that label. And after my stint was finished there in 2002, I said, okay, I'm going to go out on my own. And I started my agency, the Carter Agency. And I really thought about staying in the entertainment business. And really just decided against that because I really didn't want to be in that whole herky-jerky nature of the entertainment business. And so I decided I would look at governmental agencies and municipalities. And that's where I've been in that space. Working. I've worked for the city of LA. I've had contracts with the city of LA, had contracts with the city of Pasadena, and I've ended up also representing several nonprofit organizations. As a matter of fact, I have an announcement I'm going to make. I can't make it right now because the contract has not been signed, but I have a very reputable nonprofit that I will be representing hopefully sometime within the next week or two.
We're all still your best friend, right?
That's the space I've been playing in, and it's been great. It's PR, but it's a total different kind of PR. It's not entertainment driven. It's more about community relations, community outreach, marketing, and so on and so forth. So, it's been good, and the opportunities to really meet a lot of great people who are really affecting people's lives. I'm not saying that entertainment you don't, but the organizations that I work with, whether it's cities or nonprofits, they're actually doing stuff to help people in the community. And so I'm really enjoying doing that. And as life will have it, I'm still right now, some of my colleagues are coming and trying to pull me back into some entertainment projects. So I'm working in an ancillary way on a couple entertainment projects with one of my colleagues. We're doing some work for Chris Paul, and hopefully, that will blossom to be something really big. But my focus right now is staying in the municipalities and the public agency sphere.
Let me ask you a question, Ron. What are the benefits of a journalist falling into their path that you've taken? What are the benefits of that?
Well, for one thing, you'll make a lot more money, that's for sure. If you're willing, you have to have a lot of courage to do this. And I think Neil and any of the individuals who are on this phone who are working for themselves will tell you that. Working for yourself is a very courageous thing because it goes up and down, and you have to be able to tell yourself that, you're not going to fail. You almost got to dare yourself every day for that. I tell people every day I'm unemployed, but at the end of the day, you can make a lot of money, in terms of, I just was working with one of my colleagues who he was just used to doing stuff on, like, let's say every year. And in working with me, because a lot of my contracts are like a year and a half, 2 years, he's now have that mindset that every December he doesn't have to worry about what's going to happen the next year, because a lot of the governmental agencies, they have 2-year contracts and with a option to renew for a year or two. So you really don't have to be like pounding all the time looking for work, which is what a lot of my friends who work in entertainment, that's what they have to do. So I would say that if you're a journalist and you're trying to get into, this business, that you got to have courage, and you got to know that you're not going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You're not going to get benefits and all that stuff that people get who work jobs. I'm an entrepreneur, so my way of thinking is a little bit different from someone who has a job. I'm not criticizing anyone who has a job. I think it's a great thing for people to do that. When you do what those of us who are out here being entrepreneur does, it's a very courageous thing that you have to have the mindset. This is what you want to do.
All right, Ron, thank you for sharing. I noticed that we are definitely media-related people because no one's talking about the actual dollar amounts. But, when it comes to entrepreneurial lunches, you could pick up projects that pay in excess of $100,000 to $2 million that will last for 6-7 months. So
right.
Our goal here is to just have an introductory meet and greet to our media-related members, our NABJ members, to let you know what we're attempting to do as the media-related task force and bridging these gaps. And so one of the ways we do that is we're going to hear from Miss Syracuse herself, from Nikki Mayo, and she's going to talk to you because she's a powerhouse journalist who has just recently turned herself into a brand. Your turn, Nikki.
Okay, so for those who do not know me, my name is Nikki Mayo. I'm an NABJ baby of sorts with student projects and all that fun stuff behind me. But I'm a traditional journalist. I did the small, medium, large markets, and I was an MMJ through all of those. So I came through when they were saying that whole backpack journalist thing, and that's what we are seeing right now. What I'm hoping, because I know that a lot of people watching this will probably be media related, but if there are people who are considering maybe kind of making that leap quote unquote, to the dark side of things, look at the skills that you have. So for me, I looked at the skills that I have and I parlayed that into more stable career opportunities, because I can find news work. I can find freelance, reporting work.
Bad word.
It's work. But if I want to be able to real talk, take care of myself and be able to sustain myself as a single woman on one income, because a lot of people lean on that whole spouse thing, which is great. But if you don't have that, then you need to start making some very ironclad, responsible decisions. And being freelance all the time is not really the most responsible thing to do, unless you really have it down to a science that you know the money will always be there. I argue that that's a little too risky. And when I had to repatriate myself back to the greater Baltimore DMV area, I went for what a lot of people in the DC area do, which is government contracting. So I do my 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Don't ask me for anything. I'm a technical writer for the United States government. I use those lovely journalism skills, and I'm covering internally one of those 3-letter organizations, okay? So we all know how to write. We know how to shoot, edit, all other stuff. Why not use those skills? And since Terry brought up money, real talk, when I was trying to come home, and I was tired of Philly. I wanted to come home, and I was asking people like, I want to make 80 grand. And you had newsrooms crying broke, but they want me to be a manager at the same time, saying they can't do 80 grand. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at them like with a side eye, like, this is DC. I know how much it costs to live here. And you're crying broke because you just want to be cheap. Because I have management skills, so I know you got another 15 to 20 grand that you could pull out. They just decided they didn't want to. Meanwhile, these government contracting positions, they're like, well, we want somebody to do video, photographs, like still photography. They'll give you the camera, write stories for our newsletter. And they are not flinching when you're throwing out regular DMV cost of living figures. So for me, I'm using my passion to fund, I'm using my skills to fund my passion. I would not have been able to have the space and the leniency to do that if I was, clocking into a newsroom every day and saying, hey, I need this time off, or which brings me into what am I doing now? Fine. I'm a technical writer for the United States government. I'm my own brand, Nikki Mayo News, LLC. I report for TV One. A lot of you guys see me on those True Crime Mondays. I do almost every murder, death, kill show they have. A digital consultant for The Crisis Magazine, the NAACP's official news organization. I do a lot of the live tweeting. I put together digital strategies every week. That's just a couple hours of my time, and that's a constant check coming in. Mm-hmm. I also produce promo and social media videos for small mom and pop shops, civic organizations, and faith-based organizations. Those cute little videos you see from everything from pastor's 50th anniversary, wedding stuff, people selling t-shirts. Those videos are typically no longer than a minute 15 to 2 minutes long, and I can get a check off of that stuff as well. I offer social media services, and I teach journalism, podcasting, public speaking, and STEM. Now, everything past the whole technical writer thing, I do when I feel like it. Okay, that's the key thing. Like, I'm tired of being a slave to, like, I'm not even 40, and I'm saying I'm doing this stuff when I feel like it, y'all. Like, that's the key thing. I'm tired of you're always on. We own you. Your likeness, your brand, your voice, your picture. You got to ask us permission for everything. I got tired of it. So unless I'm running it, I'm really not in love with the idea of signing myself away and then them saying, oh, you know what? Those cute little TV One shows you're doing, can't do those anymore because we own you. So that was me kind of transitioning and taking the skills that I had as a traditional journalist. Mm-hmm. And I wore my Syracuse as an homage to my forever dean, Lorraine Branham. She was big on multimedia journalism. So real talk, if you're coming out of school or if you have all those cross-platform skills, mm-hmm. I'm trying to tell you that there are jobs out there that will pay you very well to use them. And you don't have to commit to seeing these people every day. Before I left the area, I was freelancing hardcore for like AP and TV One at the same time and teaching. I was working about 4 days a week, and I was able to afford living in the greater DMV area. So you can make it work. However, I argue my goal is that my business is my primary. So I'm working toward that. And I'm also working with another NABJer, Deborah Owens, who is teaching me about financial literacy and how to make my money grow and invest. Because real talk, I don't think a lot of people in my generation and below have retirement plans, because we're not getting that from the jobs we get. 2 years on the job, I think Ron mentioned that. You're typically looking at this quick turnover every 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I got tired of being that expendable. And I started wanting to invest in myself. And the only way you could do that is by literally creating your own empire.
Thank you, Cookie. Oh, I'm sorry, Nikki. I come to get what's mine.
Well, Taraji is from the DMV area, so
all right.
But you were supposed to do some matchmaking, and I didn't get the hookup. So.
Oh well, yeah, football player, hot guys,
But I like what you said, because there are no questions to follow through, because you were very thorough. And so I got another round of questions for everybody, and then we're going to close out. But right now, I'd like to introduce another, like I said, this is a woman who takes that 3 a.m. call, and then she has great answers for everybody. So, Maria, you're on.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Maria.
Happy Wednesday. For those of you who don't know me, this is weird for me because I'm looking at myself on camera, and it's like my eyes going here. Do I scratch? Do I this?
Look at the green dot. The green dot.
There is no green dot on this computer, so I'm looking at your green screen. Your green screen is my green dot, so thank you. For those who don't know me, I am Maria Roberts. I am the owner of Rhea Rob Media, which was formerly Written Word Communications, LLC. Like Nikki, I also do the 9 to 5. I am also a technical writer for the United States government. So I have no problem and no shame in my 9 to 5 funding my 5 to 9, which used to be my 9 to 5. So
right there.
I actually returned to full-time work after running my business for about 15 years. So I'm balancing both. It's tip of the tightrope, and there's no shame in that. So that's the first thing. So to support what Nikki has mentioned, there are a lot of people who are doing both. Before Written Word Communications, I was working as a secretary. I got tired of working retail. I was working at a camera shop. I said, I can't do this. I'd recently married, and then I went and I obtained a job as an administrative assistant in corporate outplacement. Looking back on that job has prepped me for every communications job I have had since then. At that time, I was supporting 7 VPs, an executive VP, and over 100 corporate outplacement candidates who had been laid off from their jobs, and they were looking for their next job. What I would do, I would answer their phone calls. I'd type their memos, their resumes, their cover letters. I'd teach them how to use the internet. And you have to understand, this was back in the 90s, where people were just kind of really getting that internet boom, and people were really getting into using the internet to really further their career. So we were teaching them how to use proprietary databases and software in order to find their next job, as well as help them fill out paperwork to start their entrepreneurial pursuits. So even though I didn't have the title of technical writer, which I have now, 15, 20 years ago, you were an admin assistant, but in a lot of instances, you have a lot of people who are in administrative jobs who are doing the communications work that people, and have the communication skill set that people are looking for. So basically from there, I became a widow. My husband had passed in 2003, and 6 months after my husband passed away, our company was bought out by a competitor. And it was like, okay, what do I do? So I said, okay, I was going to took some time off, decided, okay, I'm going to run a business. So I created Written Word Communications, and I started out just doing basic administrative services, the same thing I was doing in my full-time job, just outsourcing it to companies who did not have necessarily space for an in-house admin person. And I was basically outsourcing those services. I was able to go back to school, get a whole bunch of degrees and get all the little papers and the letters and this, that, and the third. And then I was able to grow my business. I then ventured into blogging, which allowed me to kind of have more exposure to people in the media industry, and it allowed me to, get little freelance gigs here and there for startups. And then all of a sudden, it's like you fast forward a couple years and you're getting into the social media thing, and the next thing you know, I get an inbox from one of the social media folks at the Oprah Winfrey Network saying, "Hey, we like how you tweet about these shows." And I like to live tweet sometimes. I don't do it as much as I used to, and hopefully I can get back to that because I like to do it. But I started looking at, it made me just start thinking about the analytics behind your tweets and your posts. But I got an invite from the Oprah Winfrey Network, like, "Hey, we're doing a premiere for, the current season of Yonla Fix My Life and the Houston Beauty and, Super Soul Sunday. Would you like to go ahead and tweet this whole weekend?" Where they allowed me to basically take over the owner's Twitter handle. And so I was like, don't threaten me with a good time. I went ahead and jumped on that. I can honestly say.
Remember that, Maria.
I can honestly say it was one of the most rewarding things that I can honestly say as a communicator I have done. I mean, there's several things, but like that one is, I never realized who was watching me. Because in a lot of instances, we get caught up in titles, and I'm this person at this radio station, at this newspaper, at this network. And as we all know and have seen firsthand, your call letters won't save you. Your job title won't save you. The network, as they say nowadays, when you die, your job will be posted before your obituary. So, with that, so from that experience, I was like, okay, how can I grow? Because for me, I used to get caught up in the title thing. It's like, okay, I'm a communicator. That's what I tell people. Regardless of what title I have and whatever role I have, at the end of the day, I'm a communicator, which really helped me with mentoring people. One of the biggest misconceptions about mentoring is that it's top down and not down up. That's one of the first misconceptions. The second misconception is that it is only for students, people under the age of 21, only students and children and little boys and girls. And what I've been seeing, especially now, people our age, and I don't mind telling my age, I'm 45. Thank God I don't look it, but I'm 45. And I realized that the relationships that I have and the information that comes based on those relationships, if I don't share that information with people to carry, just the media profession forward, our mantras and initiatives, just as people of color, as Black folk, I can say it. As Black folk, if we don't carry that forward, it dies with me. It dies with us. So mentoring is really a way to impart what we believe, impart what we want to see, show that we are moving forward and being the change that we want to see, that in a lot of instances, we can be our own rescue. So with the TAP program that we've been working on, and this thing has been a long time coming. Terry and I have been, like he says, we had those 3 a.m. phone calls, and a lot of this really, it really started taking traction after a series of webinars that I assisted Terry with a couple years back. I want to say in 2016, and that was 12 Steps to Chapter 4. And with that, we basically presented a webinar to the chapter presidents, basically helping them to realize these are the things you could do to raise awareness for your chapter, how to raise money for your chapter. And from that, it's, hey, how can we create a mentor program to not only assist, the younger members, the younger constituency within NABJ, but what about people who are over the age of 30, over the age of 40, over the age of 50. Just because you retire from a position within a network, that doesn't mean you stop having something to say. That you can't contribute to the narrative, especially now with the political climate, with how we are portrayed in the media. If we don't have a say in how we are portrayed, because we're losing a lot of our greats. Our greats are passing away. Our greats are retiring. We can't leave it to, like Neil's on this cruise with Tom Joyner. Tom Joyner's about to retire. But I would hope we would see him in some light once he retires and, once he has his time to himself and can come back in a different way or whatever. But what are we doing in light of those who are, I'm hanging up the shingle, I'm going fishing. What are we doing? And that's where the mentoring comes in. With our TAP program, we were able, just from that 12 steps to chapter fitness, we were able to mentor Terry and I. We were able to mentor one of the chapter presidents, not only to help her chapter raise money, but also when she had a job transition, we were both able at different times to mentor her at different times. And she was able to transition after being told they were letting her go while she was basically 7.5 months pregnant, about to have a child. And she's trying to figure out, okay, by the time I come back from maternity leave, the job is going to be ending. I need to make my next move. And we were able to, give her some pointers in order to help her do that. So, so the opportunity is there. That's what I will say. The opportunity is there. We're hoping to move this forward fairly quickly, even if it's nothing more than, hey, we set up an email and and folks just start sending their questions. But something, we just got to, get the ball rolling. I did something similar with the Baltimore chapter. Nikki's our immediate past president, and I recently did the same thing there. And I just kind of took it from, the conversations Terry and I have had over the past year or so, to where if anybody has a question, just send it. If I can't answer it directly, I will find the person who can. So I'll just close out with saying, think about if you need a mentor, reach out. Terry's been holding up the email. Reach out to that email. Let us know what you need. And we're just going to go ahead and at least reach out to you. We want to acknowledge you. Know that that your needs are not in vain, that your needs are not low or small. We all consider everyone important, regardless of whether you're transitioning out of journalism, in journalism, we're all communicators, and we just need to get the ball rolling because we got to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good call to action, Maria. I think it's really important that we understand, for those that are listening and those that are going to see this broadcast, that they know that we have got to be engaged. It's not about showing up at convention and running what to do, but it's about creating our destinies at convention and supporting NABJ as a whole. That means sponsorship. That means panels. That means networking. And one of the things I wanted to go over, for me, I started out as a newspaper reporter, and then I moved from there to print, and then I became a managing editor. I thought I was going to be that was my goal, to be a managing editor. And then when I saw the relationship between advertising and managing, I got involved in PR. And I launched my own company with 3 other people, and we focused on nonprofit marketing. We were able to take that company. We were very proud of that first. If someone's talking about finance on the question they asked. And if you guys have questions and listening, go ahead and post them so we can touch them, because we only got about 7 minutes left. But we were very excited when we launched our own PR and marketing firm for low-income families. And we were very excited when we got that little $35,000 check until it was deposited. We realized that's not going to make it. Now, that was 20 years ago, because that was a lot of money, but we realized we were not going to make it. But we went from a $35,000 check to, like Nikki had mentioned, we wrote a government contract and received $750,000. Then another $750,000. Then $1.3 million. You're talking about going from a staff of 2 people to a staff of 25. There are the lucrative possibilities there. Now, would be remiss if I didn't mention in corporate America, when you go from transitioning to a job and want a corporate job, one of the most lucrative things about a corporate job is the benefits. When you talk about healthcare and vision care, all the other things, you put that as a value, it could be at least an additional $20,000 in benefits for you. You have to be really aware of that. But one of the things is you don't stop being a journalist. And the corporation I work for, the jobs are communication specialist, communication advisor, community relations manager. There are people who have to spend the whole year writing the annual report for $1 billion company, and they are writing reports. Then there's the people who do the videos and the promotional videos, not to mention just working in the finance department and writing reports that people need to understand so the companies can maintain their credibility, their authenticity, and their message about their financial wellness. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that corporations launch products every day. They're struggling for journalists to write content. They're struggling.
Terry, when you were talking about the the communication specialist positions, what I've observed is that a lot of the people who have these jobs now, like that went straight, I guess, from education to in there and trying to figure it out, they still don't even write conversationally. Like, it takes a second for them to kind of get their legs about this. You as a journalist, you as being people who are surrounded by, NABJ people who we are like forced to do that whole conversational thing all the time, or breaking things down into palatable, edible pieces. We have the upper hand. You just have to go after these positions. And the more private the company, the more money they got.
Yes.
Right. And there, I just want to mention my company alone pays a lot for product marches. We just launched 7 different products. We're always growing. And look at Best Buy is always looking for content. One of our members, Tanisha, how you doing, Tanisha? She is doing content, looking for other content writers to come aboard. So much so that at one of the conventions we did a panel, and she published a book on how to write content for corporate America. And so it's all there. The one I want to address some of the questions, and then I want y'all to close with one statement answering this question: what are the pitfalls for journalists if coming over to as I call it the bright side, coming over to the lucrative side? Don't answer that question, but let's answer some of these questions here. One of the questions is, what is the email address for mentoring? I'm glad you asked. It is, I am a champion for NABJ at gmail.com. And the 4 is the number 4. I'm a champion for NABJ.
Put it up again, Terry.
All right, then. You just want me to cover my face, don't you?
No.
I am a champion for NABJ at gmail.com, the number 4. So we're going to take care of all our champions. Let me look at one of the other questions we have here. Anybody want to address this? Amber's asking us, what are some of your self-care practices while being in the communication media field? How do you take care of yourself?
I do a lot of praying. That's for sure. I do. Because it's one thing that it is what I have found working in government and being the lone person establishing this communications department. I am constantly interrupted as many times as I make a to-do list. If I get it all done, it's a miracle, but rarely do I. And it's an awful lot of work. And I find myself feeling a little anxiety. And I really do take time out to hang out with my friends, meditate, I pray a lot. And now I'm taking up some type of exercise program because I need that anyway. But I highly recommend the self-care. I learned that later in life. Right. If you're a young person, go for it. Start early.
Well, I think you go to the
I am health conscious. This is Ron. I am health conscious. So I watch what I eat, I watch what I drink, and I work out. Because one of the things that I realize as you get older, you need energy to really be able to be productive. And I find that when my energy is high, I can achieve a lot of my work. I can get a lot of my work done. I can be very productive. But when my energy is low, I don't achieve as much as I should. So there's a correlation between really taking care of yourself, being productive, and being successful in your work. And so I kind of watch that all the time.
Bill, how do you say?
Yeah, exercise is key, and I think it's also you got to surround yourself with positive people.
That's it.
When you launch your business, there are going to be a bunch of people around you saying, "Oh man, that's not going to work." And so you gotta make sure you have that the family support, the friend support, the professional support, which is again why all of us are either members of NABJ or MBPRS, because we need that really encouraging support. So get the exercise and find those people who are going to give you tough love, but they're also going to be there at 3 a.m. or 2 p.m, or respond to that text. Send that angry text face. They'll say, "Come on, get over it, and keep on moving." Right. So those are my 2 tips.
Do me a favor, Neil. Expand on your statement over there about how you started your company as a side gig.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I knew, that I was doing public relations for Tom Joyner. I was getting a lot of requests for help, which I couldn't do. So I would help kind of non-media related folks do some PR and some writing and some web development. And then when I was ready to make the transition, I formed my LLC so that when I transitioned out of the company, I was also able to negotiate a deal that basically said, "Hey, Neil, we still want your services. How can you help us?" And then use that to find a gig teaching at UNT, because I had done some guest lecturing before. So that those became the freelance, the contract for my former employer, and then the teaching became the base for my income, and then that led to referrals and again a network of relationships over a lot of years of working that have translated into relationships and reputation that over the years have translated into dollars.
Thank you, sir. And Josephine, thank you for saying this is a great webinar. Nikki stressed it as much as I can. And one of the things that I thought when I shut down, I minimized the nonprofit because the time changed for us to move into more of a technical based field, is that you've got to invest and you've got to set aside income. I promised myself, as you tithe at church, I had to tithe when I got a contract. I get a $100,000 contract. I'm putting $10,000 away so I couldn't see it. And it helped because when the economies change and the seasons change, my putting that money away kept me afloat until something else came along. So I never thought I was without income. I was just transitioning to new worlds. And Nikki stressed that about investing in yourself and moving to that place where as you take your retirement and walk away from a job, or as you take your vested funds, that you invest in who you are. Real last question. Please take just one sentence, please, because we're 2 minutes away. And please don't forget to email us, but you're looking at members of the Communications Committee, members of the Media-Related NABJ Communications Committee, members of the Media-Related Task Force. You're looking at journalists. You're looking at PR people, members of MBPRS, which is married to NABJ. It was born in the hands of Meta Meriday, Randy Bullock, and who am I missing? Pat Tobin. Mm-hmm. You heard Ron say that he met Tobin. Well, my first contract that I had as a person that showed I could do what I do came from a meeting with Pat Tobin. And I love her process. And one of the things I think is most important, and you guys can co-sign this, is that it's the power of networking. Networking is most important, to show up somewhere and have something you're bringing to the table. How can I be of value to whoever you're networking with? And that value is exchanged. Networking is very important. I wouldn't have met Nikki if I hadn't met Maria. All right. And Maria, it was a 3 a.m. phone call. She said, "You need to call Nikki tomorrow." And so that's how that happened. All right, and Pam and I started working on the purse auction. And by the way, I just want to show you all the purse auction is alive and well. I've got my Michael Kors bag here.
Ooh.
If I can turn the camera around, you'll see hundreds of purses over there that we're getting as inventory. But networking is important. And in media-related fields, you spend a lot of time on the red carpet. And so creating these opportunities, like over at the Tom Joyner Cruise, I'm sure there's 4 or 5 red carpets going on right now as we speak. But networking is very crucial. So one last final statement, and it's got to center around what are the pitfalls we see in journalism? I'll start with myself. I think that sometimes when someone's transitioning from journalism, they have not prepared themselves to go from, I'll give up an example, they haven't prepared themselves to go from a journalism-based activity to a media-related based activity. They haven't prepared themselves to go from investigative reporting to advocacy reporting. You're not investigating this. I've seen journalists lose jobs because they set up press conferences as community affairs directors, and they don't invite the right people, and they don't control the message. I've seen journalists transition who don't have a good handle on what crisis communication is. Crisis communication on the PR side is no longer breaking news, it's making news, and you have to control that crisis. And I'll start with you, Nikki. What do you think is the pitfalls of journalists? Now, let me say this, y'all. The media-related task force, we put together panels, workshops. We're going to do a media institute that covers this and helps everybody be successful. But go ahead, Nikki. Take your minute.
I put all of my information inside the chat for people who want to see the complete rundown of this answer. The short version is not being aware of audience and of your voice, and knowing what your client is looking for. If you're working for someone, if you're doing advocacy versus doing investigative, like you mentioned, knowing who are you trying to tailor this message for. It seems like an easy no-brainer, but I've seen that be a pitfall for a lot of people. Beyond that, I offered about 5 tips for those looking to create their own brand. And my biggest advice is, don't let fear overcome you. So you need to have fear that get rid of the fear so that you can fund your future. And I offered up just a couple ways to do that.
Yes, I see them. They're great. Pam, what do you think is a pitfall that journalists can overcome or prevent?
I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is thinking that you know it all already because you are a professional journalist. I've seen that know-it-all thing really backfire, and I think it's wise to ask questions, study, find out what that part of the industry is all about before you think you know it all and hang your shingle.
Thank you. Maria?
I think the biggest pitfall for journalists is that they don't expand their contact lists the way they should. And to be very specific, it's, you have some journalists, well, I only deal with other journalists. Mm-hmm. And when you look at other communicators, there seems to be an air of, we're up here, yes, and they're down here. And yes, my dad taught me, there's a saying that says, the feet you step on today is usually connected to the backside you have to kiss tomorrow. So you kind of have to, my advice would be, expand your contacts, expand your network. And usually when people say that, it's not just other journalists, because a lot of journalists learn the hard way that when they are pushed out of the newsroom or ousted from a paper, or, they become affected by a reduction in force, how those contacts change, mm-hmm, as well as those contacts in some instances aren't as viable as you think they are once you are not affiliated with a media outlet.
Right.
And it is usually a non-journalist that can help you on the path to your next job or your entrepreneurial pursuit.
That's right, Maria. Absolutely.
Ron and then Neil. Ron, what is the pitfall?
Well, one of the things that I see is that most journalists, and not all of them, but most journalists, they operate out of the mindset that they have to be objective, right? Which is the way that journalism is. You're supposed to be able to look at both sides of any situation and say, okay, I'm gonna look at this, the plus, the negative, the yin, the yang. But when you become a publicist or a public relations individual, you're basically representing, this one particular, or it might be more than one entity. And so you have to actually advocate for that particular entity. So the thinking changes from being objective to being more subjective and working on behalf of what it is you're working for. And there's a lot of little small things that happen. The way publicists think is not necessarily the way a journalist would think. And I think understanding those things and becoming more familiar with them, whether you're talking to another publicist or public relations professional, and finding out, how this works and how that works. I think somebody says not being a know-it-all is really key. Most journalists are used to being in a situation where they're being approached, they're saying no to whatever request might come at them. But when you're a public relations person, you're constantly on the request, pitch. So, understanding that and the whole nuances that go with that would take you a very long way if you're a journalist getting into PR, because you have the number one skill that it takes to be a PR person, and that is the ability to be able to write and to communicate. And so, taking that and really nurture it, massaging it, talking to other publicists about how you do this thing is really a positive thing for any journalist.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. Neil, we are all going to meet you at your next ports of call, and we're all going to join the cruise. What is the pitfall for journalists that you see?
We've got to, there's a lot of negativity, right? There's a lot of negativity about the positioning of what the role of journalism is in the world today, and what we do and how we do it. The best opportunity we have is that this digital world and the skills that we have lowered the barrier to entry to create opportunities for ourselves, our community, and really create a new path for our lives that is so vastly different than when I started in the business in 1981. So there's a tendency for some of my peers to say, oh man, I've been a journalist for so many years, I don't know what I can do. And I don't know how I want to strangle them and say, do you know what you have? Do you know how you can use that? And let's figure out a path to translating that into positive, revenue-producing, and quite honestly, soul-enriching experiences, so that we can really, so that individuals can really use those skills to not only better communications locally, nationally, regionally for companies, nonprofits, and their own company for that matter.
Thank you, Neil. Nikki, did I cover you? Did you?
I feel like it. Yeah, I already answered. I put in notes. I even made myself available if anyone has any questions afterwards. For the person that did ask about crisis communications, I have not taken on anyone in that capacity, so I don't have that.
Well, that's my specialty, crisis communications. It's also Neil's. And I think Ron and Maria and I have all managed 4 or 5 crisis events for our clients in the past 1 year. It has been amazing.
Not my ministry. It's not my ministry.
So if you can, people can, you go ahead and type in your email addresses where you can be reached, and we will conclude the panel. But one thing I wanted to talk about is that we want to thank NABJ for making this possible, for creating an organization. I live in the founder for Norma Adams Wade, our purse auction person. And I want to thank the founders, but I want to thank the current administration and all of those great staff people who bend over backwards for us and take our calls when they want to be working on something else. And I want to thank all of them in the office with Drew. Giovanna's here tonight. Caitlin, Kanya. I could go down the list. Nate, especially Veronique. Veronique is my
Yes, yay, Veronique.
yeah, Veronique. And so there's so much we can do. We want to thank our president, Sarah, and the board, all of those members, Marlon and Dorothy, and well, I could go down the list, but I want to close because we're 2 minutes over. But you guys, this is a series of getting the teaser out there for media related. We need you to come aboard. We need you to be involved. We're working on two things. We're working on our Media Institute on Entertainment and PR for LA in October. We're working on our suite, which we'd like to invite all the other task force to join us in creating a networking event in suite, because we're only as big as the other people in the room. And this is a call for all the other task forces to come aboard and work on the suite in Miami. I'm on my way I leave tomorrow for the region conference. Go to NABJ, register for your region conference, get engaged, send us an email. And the one thing I think is most important that we need to do that we're not doing, we need to support each other on Twitter. We need to like, retweet. We also need to like things on Facebook. We need to post. Now, the one thing I didn't mention, and that's because Manny Otico out of Orange County, California is not here. He is going to begin to post all the jobs that are available. I just post 3 jobs that are available at Facebook. There's jobs out there that are available at all across the country. There's jobs in Detroit. There are communications jobs that are in New Orleans. I've got some for Houston. So they will be posting on the Facebook page. You need to get to the Facebook page, the NABJ Media Related Facebook page. You need to be a mentor. You need to be mentored. And let me say this. I have been mentored and I have mentored. So you can be both. But sometimes mentoring is just to review a resume or to give feedback or to open a door. So we have got to make it possible. And so when Nikki tweets tomorrow, I expect to see hundreds of million people liking that tweet, as well as for everybody else on this panel and everybody listening. Spread the word, because this is our first foray as the NABJ board representative. I promise to be a champion for you, but I can't if you're not engaged with us. So this is the first of a 3-part series of just getting everybody on board. So thank you all for coming. Don't forget to go to nabj.org. All of our task forces are there. All the staff members' email addresses, the other board members' email addresses, the conventions, the regional conferences, everything is there. And our next workshop will focus on building your LinkedIn profile so they can create revenue for you. So I want to thank Maria, Ron, Nikki, Neil, Pam, Javon, and all of you here who signed in. And thank you for riding with us to get to where we got to go. And I am still your champion. I'm still the NABJ board representative. The wrap-up process is an arduous task to get ramped up and deliver. You guys, we're in an election year 2, so make sure you support your candidate and vote for the candidate of your choice for NABJ board of directors. And let's bring some revenue to the table, some sponsorship, and let's get each other these 6-figure jobs that are just sitting there waiting for us.
Yep.
And we're all going to wave bye-bye.
Bye.
I'll see y'all on the Tom Jordan cruise. I think they're pulling up in what city?
Yeah, tell us, Neil. We want to be there.
What's the next port to call?
Here in St. Thomas.
Okay,
Oh,
we're on
wow.
our way. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great one.
NABJ Pride.
Yeah, I don't know how to close out either.
Okay, exit full screen. I'm still here.
Bye, Pam.
Bye.